All right. Good morning, class. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. This week we are focusing on a new chapter, chapter 4, and it's all about working with financial institutions. This is a really, really important unit because it helps you start to understand finance, bank accounts, credit cards, debit cards, mortgages, all that stuff that are really important for your future. So today's lesson is a little bit different in that there's not a lot of math going on. Rather, there's more researching, there's more analyzing, interpreting, and understanding the information that you are looking at. So I'm going to walk you through basically the research and how to go about understanding and interpreting bank accounts. Majority of the charts that you were asked to complete in your mind's on are in this lesson. So we'll take it up and go through step by step your answers there. So as always, the warm up should have been completed independently. Take a second to pause the video to double check that your answers are correct. And once you've done that, unpause and we'll move on to our lesson. Okay, so we're gonna start here at the bottom where it says types of bank accounts. So financial institutions such as banks and credit unions offer many different types of accounts, which are places to hold money. So a bank account, as we know, is a place where you store your money. It could be if you have a debit card, you could have a checking account, you could have a savings account, you could even open up a credit card account. This is really important because at one point in time, every single one of you will have some sort of account open. Whether you have one right now that your caregivers or parents might have opened for you when you were born, or whether you open one up in the future once you start working and you get a job, we all will have a bank account. So it is important to remember that people do have different financial situations. So some people may make more money, some people may make less money, some people may need to open an account to save their money for school in the future. Some people may want to open an account just to save money to have for emergencies. So depending on your financial situation, we all earn, spend, and save money differently. So different types of accounts are made for these different financial situations. So for example, people who write a lot of checks, and we'll discuss what a check looks like after, they need a different type of account than people who write very few checks, okay? So again, depending on your financial situation, the accounts that you have will vary. Okay, question number 1 asks us to complete this table by surveying 5 members of our class. Unfortunately, due to the nature of COVID and being online, we don't have that opportunity to be able to serve one another, but it's likely that you might already have some sort of bank account open, probably in the form of a debit card, which means you most likely have a savings account and a checkings account. So just think about that as we're going through these charts here, okay? I remember I got my first debit card when I think I was in grade 12, and that's because I had just started working. So I needed a place to store my money that I got from working. And that's when I, first opened up a bank account, at least my own bank account. Because I was, a high school student at the time, the account that my bank offered me was a student banking account. And as you were researching, you probably noticed that some of the banking accounts that these banks, these institutions offer are catered towards students, which is really important because you're young when you first open up a bank account. And these accounts have certain criteria and requirements that are created in your best interest, so you're not going and spending too much money. And we'll talk about that after. Okay, so number 2 says research financial institutions to collect the following information about different types of accounts. So this was the first question of your mind's on. I had hyperlinked a few different banks that you could have looked at. Ideally, what you would do when you're researching is you can just, on Google or any search engine, you can type in bank accounts, or you can type in the name of your bank or any bank and then accounts. So what I did was I typed in RBC accounts and it brought me to the RBC webpage. And then if you look at the menu here, there's a tab for accounts. So I just clicked on that, and you notice they are divided up into checking, savings, youth, and student. So see how that's its own separate category. I just clicked general accounts because I wanted to see, I wanted to see what was available. Okay, so I came across this RBC high interest savings account. So that's the first one in my chart here. The interest rate offered right here is 0.050%. So that means, so a savings account is a type of account where usually the money you put in there is meant to stay in there so you can save it, versus a checking account where that's usually the account you use to spend your money. Some savings accounts have a cap on the number of transactions you can use. And that's done intentionally, because if it's meant to be a savings account, you probably don't want to be spending the money in there. So they put a limit on the amount of transactions you can use that account for, which is, the ideal thing to do. Now, savings account also usually have interest on it, which means for every dollar you save, some percentage of it will be added on top to your amount. So in this case, the interest rate is 0.050%. That's very small. That's not even like 1 penny of extra money you make on top, but it's something. And if you collect and you save a lot of money over time, eventually your interest will collect too, and you'll get more money on top of the amount you've already put into your bank account. Service charges are basically anything that the bank charges you for using that account. So those can include monthly fees, those can include transaction fees. For this particular account, if we scroll down here, so make sure anytime you're looking at a bank account, you read through the whole information. So here there is no monthly fee, so great, no service charge there. Here, however, $5. This means, so certain bank accounts have a limit on the number of transactions that you can do. So for this account, if you exceed the monthly limit of debit transactions, so if you make, let's say, I'm not too sure what the monthly limit is, let's say it's 25. If you use your debit card more than 25 times, each time after that, you have to pay an extra $5. So that's a service fee. Another service fee is this Interac e-transfer, $1 each. So anytime you make an e-transfer, you have to pay $1. Personally, I wouldn't do that because you don't want to have to spend money on sending money. But again, the reason why they put that service charge in place here is because it is a savings account, right? So they're trying to deter you or steer you away from taking money out of it. Right? If you have to pay $1 every time you take money out of that account to send it to somebody else, you're probably not going to want to take money out of that account and send it to somebody else. So there are these, limits or restrictions to kind of encourage you to not take money out of that account. Incentives are anything that will draw you into to opening up that bank account. And in this case, one of the incentives is there's no monthly service fee, which is great. Every month, you don't have to pay an amount for having that account open. So that was the RBC high interest savings account. Another account that I was able to Google and look up was the TD unlimited checking account. So that's our second one here. Checkings account, usually you do not collect interest. Usually you don't make more money on top of what you already put in there. So for this one, we're going to put not applicable. There is no interest rate. Service charges. This account does have a service charge. It has a monthly fee of $16.95. So that is a service charge. That is a payment you're going to have to make towards the bank for having this account open. Let's see if there's anything else. So again, it's always important to really scroll through and read everything. So here are some other service charges. If you use a foreign ATM, so if you put your card into an ATM in the States or in Mexico, you have to pay $3 to use that machine. Same idea. If you use an ATM in another country other than USA and Mexico, you have to pay $5. So those are some service charges. Some incentives. Why would you want to open this account? Well, you get unlimited transactions. There's no limit on the amount of times you can use your debit card, which is really nice. Another incentive is that there are free Interac e-transfers, which is, again, nice. You don't have to pay a fee every time you want to send money to your friends or family, whatever it might be. And the reason, again, for this is a checking account. The point of a checking account is to spend your money in there. That's why you have. The checking account is designed for you to take the money out of that one when you have to make purchases. So the next account is Scotiabank. I found this one, Getting There Savings Program for Youth. So this is a type of student banking account. When you're a student and you're first opening up a bank account, your financial advisor is usually going to encourage you to open a student account because, as I mentioned before, the requirements, the criteria, the setup of it all is created intentionally to help you be very mindful of your finances and what you're spending. So for example, I'm with RBC. When I first got my debit card, it was a student debit card and I was only allowed 25 transactions per month. So that forced me to be mindful of my spending. I was only allowed to withdraw $100 at a time. So if I wanted to take money out of the bank, I can only do up to $100. Again, great. So I wasn't, taking out more money than I needed. And I can't remember what else there was no monthly service fee. Again, because as a student, you're not making that much money. So it's not realistic to charge you a monthly service fee. And I also had to pay an extra fee if I used an ATM that was outside of RBC. So those were all put in place. So I was being more smart and making mature decisions with my money. So this account right here, the interest rate, so it is a savings account, okay? So remember, usually with savings account, there is an interest rate offered because they're encouraging you to put money in a bank and to sort of, reward you or applaud you for making a financially smart move. They're going to give you extra money on top of what you put into the account. It's not a lot. Interest rate isn't usually that high with these types of savings accounts, but it's something. So if we scroll here, right here, it says you can earn 0.05% interest on deposits up to $499.99. So that means if you put up to $499 into your bank account, you'll get 0.05 interest on that. So not even a penny on that. And then same here, you'll earn 0.1% interest on deposits of $500 or more. Service charges, there are none. As you can see, account fees here at $0 per month, with the caveat that you are 18 years or older for this account. What else? Incentives. Okay, so like the TD one, there are unlimited debit transactions. There's no limit on the amount of purchases you can make. You also get unlimited Interac e-transfer transactions. And I think the best part here is you get a choice of Scene Rewards or Scotia Rewards for every purchase that you make. And if you like watching movies, this might be, the card for you. You can collect Scene points, and then when you go to the movies, you can redeem those points. And the last account is the CIBC Smart Account, which is a checking account. So checking account, again, this is usually where the money will come out of when you're making purchases. There is no interest rate offered because of that. It is a checking account. Service fees, this one's interesting. It varies. It could be anywhere between $4.95 to $14.95 a month, depending on how many transactions you want to make a month. So if you want to do 12 transactions a month, your monthly fee will be $4.95. If you want unlimited transactions, well, your monthly fee is going to be a little bit higher. You're going to have to pay $14.95. So an incentive with this is right here. It says you pay no monthly fee if your daily balance is $3,000 or more. So if you don't want to pay that monthly fee, the idea is keep $3,000 in your bank account every day. You won't have to pay it. That's smart because it forces you to make sure that you have at least $3,000 in your bank account every day. It's also tough, and one of the reasons why the bank uses that amount, because they know most people aren't going to be able to keep $3,000 in their checkings every day, especially if you're younger. So they kind of already know that they're still going to be making money off of that monthly payment, because they're aware that most people aren't able to maintain that $3,000 in their bank account. Okay, so that was a little bit lengthy, but I really want to go through these accounts and how to read them and interpret them. So if we move on, here it says most banking transactions can be done by using a bank card, which we call a debit card, at an automated banking machine or an ATM, by banking over the phone or by using the internet, or even seeing the teller in person at a bank. So these are ways that you can make a transaction. And a transaction is just another fancy way of saying, a purchase or anything that involves you using your debit card. Savings accounts, like we've already discussed, are accounts where money is deposited. Deposited means money is being put into the account, and interest is paid by the financial institution on the account balance or amount of money in the account. So you put money into that savings account, the bank will pay interest. So a percentage of the amount of money you put in, they'll add on top of the amount you already have in your account. So it's like you're making money in a way. Some offer a higher interest rate for higher account balances. So now we're going to research financial institutions that collect or that have savings accounts. So again, all you have to really search on Google is, bank saving accounts. And you could even be more specific and choose a certain bank that you want to look at. I decided to look at CIBC's savings accounts. So I found the CIBC TFSA Tax Advantage Savings Account. So here, the interest rate is 1.5%. So whatever amount you put into your bank account, you'll earn an extra 1.5% of that. So let's figure out how much money that extra money is monthly. So to do that, we're going to imagine that we have $1,000 in our bank account. Okay, we have to multiply that by our interest rate. And remember, anytime we're working with percents, we have to change it to a decimal. So 1.5% is the same as 0.015. And then we're going to divide that by 12 because there's 12 months in a year. So if we do 1,000 times 0.015, we get 15. Divide that by 12, we get $1.25 monthly. So every month, I'm going to earn an extra $1.25, and that's going to be added into my savings account. And again, I encourage you to, look through the account, see what other incentives and requirements it offers. The next savings account is the TD, Everyday Savings Account. So again, because it is a savings account, you are going to receive interest. Here, it says that you earn interest on every dollar. But what is the interest rate? Well, that depends on how much money you have in your bank account that day. So if we look here, if you have $0 to $900, $999.99, your interest rate is 0.010%. If you have this amount in your bank account, the interest rate is the same, 0.01%. If you have this amount, again, the interest rate is the same. So in this case, for this account, your interest rate is 0.01%, okay? And then because of the fact that the amount of interest you get depends on the savings account and the amount of money you have in your bank account, this last column here, we're gonna leave blank because it varies. But the idea is whatever amount you have in your bank account, you're gonna earn a certain percentage back on that. Okay, so let's move on. Many financial institutions charge a monthly fee for different services and transactions offered with the account. Routine transactions are regular transactions, such as depositing and withdrawing money. Most financial institutions include the use of ATMs as routine transactions. Routine transactions could also be like if you have something set up where every month it takes money out of your bank account to pay for, I don't know, a water bill or your cell phone bill. Those are routine transactions because they're regularly happening. Financial institutions usually allow a certain number of routine transactions for free every month. The number changes depending on what type of account you have, right? So I should also mention that routine transactions are just transactions that you do on a regular basis, okay? So question 4 wants us to research the monthly fees associated with each account that we listed in question number 3. Okay, so let's go back to our TFSA. The name of the savings account we have here, the monthly fee for the account. So let's see, how much does this account cost us monthly? Right here, it says none, so it's free. Now it asks us, what's the number of free routine transactions per month? And if we do a little bit of research, if we read through this, it doesn't say anywhere that there's a cap on the number of transactions that we can do. So we're going to put not applicable because the information just isn't given to us. We don't know how many free transactions we get before we start getting charged. Now, if we go to the TD bank account, the everyday savings, again, the monthly fee here for the account, $0. Awesome. Now let's see the number of free routine transactions per month. Right here, the number of transactions included in this account is 1 transaction per month. So that means you can take money out of this account or use that account to pay for something once. Any other time after that, you're going to get charged. And again, the reason for that is this is a savings account. They're trying to deter you and encourage you not to use it, because then what's the point of having a savings account if you're just going to keep using the money? So the fact that they put a cap or a limit on the number of times you can use that account to pay for things is really smart, actually. So question C says, does either of these accounts require a minimum monthly balance for you to avoid paying any monthly fees? So this one, the TD one, we don't have to pay any minimum monthly balance. However, for the TFSA, right here, it says that we have to put in a minimum of at least $25 into the account in order to avoid any fees. Okay, question 5 says, select one of the savings account from number 3 and answer the following questions. So let's use our TD account. So our TD everyday savings account, and let's answer these questions. A says, can you transfer money from one account to another? Well, right here, it says free transfers to your other TD Canada Trust deposit accounts. So yes, you can. It's unlimited the amount of times you can do it, and there's no charge for it. It's free. Right here, it says that too. Free transfers to your other TD accounts. So what that means is if you will have money in your savings account and you want to transfer it over to your checkings account, so when you go and pay for something, it comes out of your checkings account, you can do that. I tend to do that often. Like when I save my money, I keep it in my savings account. And then when I know I want to make a purchase, I take the money out of my savings account and I transfer it over to my checking account. So that way, when I make the purchase, it comes out of my checking account. That way I don't get charged for using my savings account. And I have unlimited transactions with my checking account. So I just like to make all my purchases from there. But I store my money in my savings. B says, can you pay bills electronically? If we look here, it doesn't say anything about paying bills. So we're going to put not applicable. Next question says, can you make purchases using a debit card? Yes, you can. We know we can make a purchase with this savings account. However, the first transaction is free. Let's see how much it costs for additional transactions after that first free one. Right here, it says $3 each. $3. So for every additional transaction you make, you're going to get charged $3. D says, can you set up automatic withdrawals and payments? Again, it doesn't state here, so we're going to put not applicable. E, can you withdraw cash in an ATM? The answer is yes, you can withdraw, cash from the ATM. However, if it's a non-TD ATM, so if you go somewhere other than a TD bank to take out the money, you're going to be charged $2 service fee for using that ATM. And can you obtain US currency? Again, it doesn't say from here on this website if you can, so we're just going to put not applicable. We would need more information. Okay, so that's all about savings account. So again, savings accounts are, accounts where you store your money and you save it and you collect interest on it. You collect extra money on it so that amount can grow. We're going to talk about checking accounts now. And this is, like I've mentioned multiple times already, this is usually where you take your money out of to make purchases. But they also are bank accounts that allow you to write checks on the account balance. A check is a substitute for cash, and this means that you do not have to withdraw cash to spend the money. So if you were to write a check, once that check gets processed, the amount is now taken out of your bank account. You don't always need money to pay for things. Some checking accounts pay interest, but some do not. In my experience, I've never had a checking account that pays interest, meaning I don't have to pay an extra charge on top of the checks that I'm using, but some do. Some are combined with savings account and may pay a lower rate of interest than a regular savings account. Writing checks is a routine transaction offered by most banks, and you are allowed to write a certain number of checks for free each month. And you may have to buy the blank checks that you use. Some accounts offer free checks. So that checkbook, you might have seen maybe a caregiver or maybe a friend, a family member has a checkbook. Usually those are given to you for free. I know mine were. Sometimes you might have to pay a small fee to get those checks. And a lot of businesses do not accept personal checks as a method of payment. So for example, what that means is if you were to go to the store, let's say you're going to the grocery store, usually you can't write a check to pay for your purchase. It doesn't really work like that. Sometimes though, like for example, I work at the liquor store, and when restaurants come in to purchase their stuff, that's when we accept checks, because usually it's a bigger transaction, it's a bigger amount of money. So they use checks to pay for it and we accept it. But if it was just a regular customer buying for themselves, we would not accept a check. So there may be a fee to get your checks returned to you after they have been cashed. Also, if you have overdraft protection, this means the bank will still cash checks that you have written, even if you do not have the money in your bank account to cover them. So let's say you have $50 in your bank account, but you need to write a $100 check. I mean, you don't have enough money in your bank account to cover that $100. But if you have overdraft protection, the bank will still cash in that check. You're just going to be charged. You're going to have to pay back that amount you don't have. So if you had 50, you made a check for 100, there's $50 there that you still would have to pay. So you would have to pay that $50 back, and the bank is going to charge you interest. So extra money on top of the amount you have to pay back. So ideally, try not to go into overdraft protection because of the fact that you're going to have to pay interest and more money back. But there are scenarios where people do run into these situations. So if you do not have enough money in your account and you do not have overdraft protection, the check will not be cashed. Okay, so then there's the other end of the stick where if you write a check for an amount that you don't have money for and you don't have overdraft protection, the check will not be cashed at all. And it will be returned to you as NSF check, which means non-sufficient funds. So we're going to research two financial institutions and collect information about their checking accounts. So again, in Google, you can type in checking accounts, or you can put the specific name of a bank checking accounts. Let's look at RBC here. This is the RBC day-to-day banking checking account. The monthly fee for the account right here is $4. And let's see what the number of, oh, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong question. Interest rate the account pays. So there is actually no interest that the client or the customer of this account has to pay. So we're going to put not applicable. And because there's no interest, there's nothing to calculate. So we're going to put not applicable. The second savings account is the CIBC everyday checking account. There is, again, no interest rate. So the customer of this account does not have to pay interest on top of the amount that they have in their bank account. And again, because there's no interest, we don't have to calculate what the interest would be per month. Now let's go to number 7, which I've kind of already jumped ahead to. So looking at the same RBC banking account, the monthly fee for this account, so that means every month, regardless of how many transactions you use or regardless of how many purchases you make, the bank will take $4 out of your account every month. It costs, you can think of it as the cost of opening up the account. They charge you $4 every month for having that account open. Now, the number of free routine transactions per month, right here. You're allowed 12 debits per month. So you're allowed to make 12 purchases or transactions per month, whether it be a purchase at a store, whether it be an ATM withdrawal, whether it be paying a bill, whatever it is, you can make 12 transactions. After that, you're going to get charged $1.25 for each additional transaction you make. The CIBC banking account, the monthly fee is $3.90, and same here, the number of transactions for free is 12. And they actually end up having the same charge as the RBC one. It's $1.25 for every additional transaction. C says, does either of these accounts require a minimum monthly balance for you to avoid paying monthly fees? The answer is no. Regardless of how much money you have in your bank account, you still have to pay the monthly fee. So that brings us to the end of our lesson. This check your understanding you can do on your own time independently, but I really do want to point your attention to writing checks. This is important. There's a big component of your quiz on this concept here. So the reason why I want to highlight this is because recently I've been writing checks. I'm the director of finance of my school's student association. So I've been responsible for writing checks to different companies. It was quite embarrassing the first time I had to write a check. At 23 years old, I did not know how to write one. I had to ask my parents how to write a check. I want to teach you how to write a check so you don't run into the same problem I did. It's a very important skill. And yes, although checks aren't used as often, it's still really crucial to understand how to write one. So as we've already mentioned, there are many ways to pay for things, including writing a personal check. So a check allows you to use money in a personal account. So instead of taking out cash from your bank account and using that to pay for a purchase, you can write a check, and then once it's cashed in, the amount is removed from your bank account. So there's some key components of a check here. The top left corner, you have the name and address of you, your name, your address. The top, sorry, I don't know if I said left, but this is the top left corner. The top right corner is the check number. And anytime you're writing a check, usually there's a part in your checkbook that allows you to write down your transactions and what you used it for. So make sure you jot down what check number you used, who it was written for, and why it was written. In the center here, we have the name of the recipient. So we have who the check is being addressed to. In this case, the check is being addressed to the Cool Store. Here we have our date. Usually on the check, it tells you what order to write it in. If it's year, month, date, or date, month, year, just follow what the check says. Here, the right of the screen, we have the numeric amount. So you write in numbers the amount you're paying to the recipient. The second line here, now we're writing the dollar amount in words. So the dollar amount, meaning the number before the decimal, we write in words. So in this case, it's 23. So we're gonna write out 23. And now the cents part, we keep it in numbers, but we write it right here in front of the out of 100. So the dollar part, 23, is written in words. The cents part, the 45, is written in numbers. And then the last thing is the signature of the issuer, which is you. So whoever is writing the check puts their signature here at the bottom. On the flip side of the check, there's another space for a signature. That's where the person who's receiving the check signs, okay? So again, to reiterate, name of recipient is, or who the check is addressed to, is in the middle here. Who is issuing the check, AKA you. The signature goes right here at the bottom right. So in this case, the check is written to the Cool Store. So they are the recipient of this completed check. They are the ones receiving the check. Who issued the check? I am wealthy, clever. They're the ones who wrote the check and is sending it off. And the check is written for an amount of $23.45. So why is the amount on a check written in numbers and in words? Well, it's just a way to double check, okay? So it's to ensure that the signing authority or the person who's issuing the check meant the same number as what is written in words. So just to make sure that, they actually meant $23.45, we put the numeric amount as well. So it's a way of double checking. And why might the issuer draw lines before and after the amount written in words? So right here. So this could be just to separate the written words from the number, right? To separate the 23 from the 45. And it's also a good way to highlight where the written words begin and where they end. So please take the time to, really understand how to write a check. I encourage you to continue looking at bank accounts because, like I said, one day you're going to have to open a bank account. Start thinking about opening savings accounts. If you can, talk to a financial advisor. Start saving now. So when you get older, you have a good chunk of money saved up for things maybe such as buying a car or maybe renting a condo, whatever it is. I would really encourage you to start thinking about savings now. So that brings us to the end of our lesson. Please don't forget to complete the 4.1 quiz. And as always, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask or reach out. So have a lovely day. See you all tomorrow. Take care.